Good evening and welcome to Keep It Real, episode 6 with Robin Walker, a black historian who, after reading The Destruction of the Black Civilization, decided to do black studies.
My thing is presenting our history in a respectful and dignified way. So few people have done it.
He teaches it. So let's find out why people like Andrew Muhammad, Bada Bada and Leo Chester have so much respect for him.
Whoa, welcome and how you doing, people? Thank you for joining me. My name's been Rudi Lickwood. My name's been. My name always has been. Good evening, Juicy Judy. How you doing, darling? Good evening, Claire. Thank you for joining me. Oh, man. How have you guys been getting on with the petrol, man? How have you been getting on with the petrol? Boris mess up. Big time. Good evening, Mark. How you doing, Mark? Thanks for dropping by. Yeah, how you guys been getting on with the petrol, man? You been queuing? Have you been queuing? Hey? Shoes is in the house. How you doing, Shoes? Shoes is in the house. Respect. Shoes, Shoes, where you been this weekend? May I ask you? Because 1 minute me see you at a beach, yeah? Next minute I don't see you on the beach, and I'm thinking, and then you go how you're in Jamaica. I mean, you say you're not in Jamaica, you know? Huh? Yeah, listen, mate. Listen. I got some E10, right? I got some E10. I got some E5. If people are looking for some E5, you can come around my yard and you can get some right now. Yeah? Bun the weed. There's no point in selling weed. There's no money in weed. There's no money in cocaine, okay? The money is all in petrol. You understand what I'm saying? That is where the money is right about now. So if anybody is running short of petrol, come and check the eye. Yes? You got enough fuel. Yeah, hear this guy. Enough fuel. Key workers priority. So I hear, Julie. I hear, but I don't see why. To me, I don't see why. I think everybody should be treated the same way across the board. You get me? I believe that disabled people should park in Sainsbury's where everybody else parks. You know what I mean? If you want equality, that's equality. Lowestoft. So that's where you were. Now I'm with it. 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 So that's where you were. Because I was thinking to myself, you know what? It was a little bit sunny when I saw you on the beach in our shoes. Yeah. But now that you're saying that you're down at Lowestoft, it makes sense, man. And you managed to get petrol as well. Well done. Good on you. Good on you. So for all of those who have joined me for the first time, once again, I'll repeat myself. My name is Rudi Lickwood. Thank you very much for joining me. I do have a very distinguished guest for you guys this evening, right? So all that I ask you to do is to share the page, like the page. You know what I mean? Let's get some more people in watching this thing, yeah? Let's get some more people in watching this thing, right? Because it's something that I'm very proud of doing. Wait, hold on. I don't know where that come from. I don't know where that come from, but it shouldn't have jumped in there, but it jumped in. It's something that I'm very proud of doing. I believe in raising the profile of people who are doing stuff in the community, especially when it's important to us. And this gentleman that I want to bring on has been doing a lot of work. He goes by the name of Robin Walker. Good evening, Tony. How you doing, bruv? Do me a favor, ask Countryman to give me a call. Ask Countryman to give me a call, please. But back to what I was saying earlier on. Yeah, I've got a very distinguished guest for you. He's known as the Black History Man, right? He's known as the Black History Man, with good reason too, when I think about it. Because Black history is so important, and yet it's almost like it's been so neglected, you know. Why? We'll find out why by asking him. Actually, yeah, we'll do that. Okay, thanks for that, Tony. Countryman is still camping. What do you mean he's camping? What do you mean he's camping? He's out camping. Are you serious when you say that? He's seriously out there camping. That's what he's doing. Okay. Okay, I'll take your word for that. That's what he's doing. But in the meantime, let me just get this up. Where am I? No. You see, what I don't have is I don't have a massive team, yeah. So because I don't have a massive team, me do everything myself, you know. I'm trying to multitask like Shoe Doctor. Shoe Doctor knows how to multitask. I've been watching his shows, watching the way in which it's really come on. I must say, I must admit, I'm very impressed, Shoe Doctor, with the way in which you've developed your shows, to the point where I'm green with envy. Yeah, not that I should be, but yeah. Very impressed with the way that you put your shows together now, man. Professional, everything. I'm sure that there'll be a lot of people out there looking and watching what you do, and are very impressed with what you've produced. You know. Right, I'm just about ready now to bring on my guest. Yeah, so thank you for bearing with me. Once again, please do like and subscribe. Very important that you like and subscribe. Okay, so let's get some applause going. And I welcome onto the platform Mr. Robin Walker. How you doing, Robin?
I'm doing very, very well, sir. How are you?
Well, a little bit flustered, because I was doing some last minute technical work, trying to get everything ready and on time. You know what I mean? Because I know
respect to that.
No, there's one thing I have to say about you is that you're always on time.
That's my thing. It's got to be done.
Yeah, because I mean, do you believe in this thing of black man timing?
There is such a thing. I've even heard that the Australian Aborigines have a phrase that translates as black. They call it black fellas time. So yeah, there is such a thing, but obviously certain whatlessness our community could probably do without.
What listeners? I like the way that you say, because if there's one thing I know with you is you don't mince your words.
In it. No, sometimes you just got to go for the jugular.
No, yeah, but that's you though. You tend to be quite straight when it comes to talking about certain things, or when you've found something, you're very upfront about it. When something irks you, or when you think that someone's literally taking the mick, you don't hesitate to call. You call it, basically. You call it. That's what I noticed with you. You definitely call it.
I don't mind putting difficult and controversial issues on the table. I'm quite comfortable talking about many of them, and I do think our community would benefit if we were to face up to some hard truths sometimes.
Would you say one of the hard truths is that the predicament, as a historian, the predicament that we find ourselves in, our current state, is really down to us?
No, what it is we are facing opposition that in some cases is bigger than us, and we haven't really worked out the strategy in which to engage properly with a view to actually winning. So what happens is we try to fight strategies that have already proven that they lose to new situations, do you see? And younger people coming through with new ideas, new thoughts, new ways of engaging. There hasn't been too much of that, unfortunately.
So what do you think of Andrew Mohammed then?
Big love to Andrew Mohammed. Great guy. Big love. But Andrew's not a young youth, he's big man age. He's our age, do you see?
Yeah, but I mean, I like the way that you said, when you use the word younger approach, because he tackles that bridge of communicating with our children, so to speak. True say.
But he's our age, you see, he's big man age. And what we need is, while he's a brilliant teacher and a brilliant lecturer and educationalist across the board, what we need is young people, people in their 20s, 25, those kinds of people carrying the torch forward.
Yeah.
As I said, people, our age people, big up, but the torch, does have to be passed, and it has to be passed down to safe hands who we know are going to move the game forward.
But you deliberately decided that when it came to teaching Black studies, I mean, how would you define Black studies, basically? Let's go from there first.
Okay, every area of intellectual activity that we're interested in and we're about. So it's not just the history, it's the sociology, it's the politics, it's the psychology, it's the religion, it's the science and technology, and it's the business and economics. Do you see? So what it does then is, if it's just history, you've got interesting information. If it's all the other subjects, it moves from being interesting information to revolutionary education, because what it does is it changes the whole paradigm of how we see ourselves and how we see each other. Do you see?
Because you deliberately chose to focus on the elders, didn't you?
Indeed, because the adults need to know so they can pass something on to their children. If you just teach the children and the adults haven't been taught, you see, the children will then go home to, as one of my former colleagues put it, to a bag of foolishness. So that's why the adults have to be on their A game first, and we have to help the adults get on their A game first. Okay,
I hear that, because I like the way that you say you call us lot the adults. Do you know what I mean? And I can tell that just from the trousers that you've got on.
Well, that's from back in the day. That's back in the day. I mean, that's the Rupert the Bear trousers, isn't it? You don't know.
You know what? I had a pair of those, Rude Boy. I had a pair of those, man. I had a pair of those. It was like
those, the Bear trousers, definitely.
Those were like the trousers to wear. I mean, there's got to be people in here who can remember having a pair of these trousers. Yeah.
In it.
Because we're talking about the Osmonds, we're talking about the Bay City Rollers. We're talking about the platforms.
This is what it is. All the young people today are wondering, who are the Osmonds? Who are the Bay City Rollers?
Right, yeah. But we were jamming to them on top of the pops, man. We were jamming to them on top of the pops.
Everyone today will try and deny that, innit? They'll try and say, no, that wasn't me. That wasn't me.
You know what? This is what I find quite surprising, though, Robin, is that if you're in a dance scene and you put on one of them tune there, yeah,
mash up the dance.
Yes.
Yeah, it's true.
Yes.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
But if you try to have that conversation now, say outside of that arena, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, I wouldn't even say betting shop or anything like that, but let's just say in a foyer or something, and you try and bring it up, you know what I mean?
Everyone will deny it.
They will deny it. They will deny it, man. But, you know, plain and simple, we had those days, you know what I mean? Because you spent time in Jamaica, if I'm correct.
Absolutely. That photograph was taken after I'd come back from Jamaica. See, I was in Jamaica for 2 years, between the ages of 4 and 6. My parents' marriage mash up, so my mum brought us back to Britain. I lived in London for a little while, and then Milton Keynes, and that photograph was taken in Milton Keynes with me as a Boy Scout. So yeah, 2 years in Jamaica.
Wait, hold on. I didn't notice the oh yeah, you got the cap on, innit?
Boy Scouts, man. On. Yeah, can you see the yeah, and the scarf, all of that.
So you had a woggle. You had a woggle.
Well, all of that. Kayla, we will do our best. All of that stuff. Absolutely. Yeah.
How many badges did you get? What badges did you get?
I can't even remember, Bridget. I can't even remember. But yeah, I was into that thing. I was into that thing big time.
Well, it was either that the brownies or it was the Cub Scouts, the brownies. What else was there? Some of them used to go into the cadets.
That's right. Yeah,
man used to go into the cadets as well, or you ended up doing some sort of martial art. You get me?
So for me as a child, it was Cub Scouts. Right. And then I got into music. I became a musician, do you see? So that's what I did as a child. So I didn't do the cadet thing, but it was Cub Scouts, then musician.
So as a musician, what was your instrument?
Originally, it was trumpet. Then it went to my brass player said, there's no way that I'm ever going to master the trumpet. So he suggested a different brass band instrument. There's an instrument called a baritone.
That's a bigger one. That's slightly bigger.
That's a bigger one. Then there's one.
I played the tenor horn.
Oh, respect. So my one was.
I was in the Brent brass band.
Respect. We're gonna have to chat, Bridget. Okay, yeah, I was a brass band player as well. So it's euphonium, and then I went to a music school where because the brass bands, as you know, has got a working class reputation. Right. They look down on it big time, and so you don't.
They look down on it when I used to have to carry it from Neasden down to the shopping centre. Yeah, with this big case. Yeah. It wasn't the coolest of instruments to be walking around with.
True say. Yeah, so what it was that so they suggested that I learn trombone, and so I became a euphonium player, trombone player, and then classical guitarist.
And you actually went and studied that, you said?
Yeah, I went when I got to was it 18, 19? Can't remember. I went to study at Goldsmiths College.
Okay, that's in where's Goldsmiths College? That's in that's down New Cross side.
New Cross, yeah, and I was connected to University of London, and I was doing originally a classical music degree.
Okay, so what kind of took you off that road then? Because you said it was originally. It sounds like
Let me explain that. Two things took me off it really. One was the Jazz Warriors, but the second thing was they were into very, very modern classical music, very modern. Right, for those people that don't know, if you look at modern art, and someone just puts some rubbish together and says it's art, and then you've got all the critics doing this, right?
Yeah.
Right, the music is the equivalent. So you've got tunes that go that type of rubbish, and that's what they were into at Goldsmiths College. And I said to my tutor, listen, bro, there's no way that I'm going to spend 3 years doing this kind of nonsense. So my tutor at the time negotiated getting me out of Goldsmiths and into the LSE, where I did my next best subject, which was economics.
Okay, because we'll get to that. We're definitely gonna get to that. But if we stay with the music for a while, because you just now mentioned the Jazz Warriors. Yeah. I mean, tell us a bit more about that.
All right, can you see the photograph here? Left-hand side, third person from the left wearing the tie.
Third person from my left, yeah?
Yeah, wearing the tie.
Yeah.
Black shirt and tie, that's me. Can you see my trombone in front of me? Yeah, basically the Jazz Warriors. Big love to the Jazz Warriors. Big love to Courtney. Big love to, at the time, the guy was Jeff Gordon. Jeff Gordon was a tenor sax man and alto sax man. He was in the Jazz Warriors. He saw me traveling to Goldsmiths College with my trombone over my shoulder. And he said, "Is that a trombone?" And I said, "Yes, it's a trombone." He said, "Can I take your number?" Okay, here's my number. And he called me. And it was like, God damn. So he told me to show up to a rehearsal. And I showed up. And bottom line was their principal trombonist, a gentleman called Fayez Verji, was really, really busy. So I got to sit in. And the result was I was in the Jazz Warriors between, I think, 1987, 1988, that kind of period. So, yeah, I was a So the Jazz Warriors was, as you can see, it's an all-black jazz orchestra. And it's the first such orchestra since World War II. There was a guy called Ken Snake Hips Johnson during World War II. And then the next black jazz orchestra in Europe was us. So that's us. You have to admit, the photograph's cool, isn't it? Yeah,
it is cool. It is. I like the fact that it's black and white. But you skid past the fact that you just said Courtney, like Courtney and nobody.
Yeah, Courtney
Pine.
Yeah, basically, the orchestra was put together by Courtney Pine and his wife, June Gishard. And what it is they set up an organization called the Abibi Jazz Arts. And what the Abibi Jazz Arts did was to put together Jazz Warriors, put together a whole bunch of other jazz groups. And they created an all-black jazz scene overnight, you know. And if you consider that Courtney was, 22 at the time, big things.
Yeah.
And I'm still Facebook friends with some of those people, which is really, really good. And I'm really proud of the fact that some of those guys are now professors of music, doing their thing, you know.
So then, because it's like, I mean, my background, you know, my people, we weren't into the scholars, the whole study, the whole, I mean, was that mum and dad who, their expectations of you? I mean, you said that your parents split up. So was it more your mum? Was it your mum's expectation? Because I know that you said you've got an older sister. Yeah.
Yeah, let me explain that. Basically, that's a picture in it.
Yeah.
That's a picture. Yeah, basically, my sister's 5 years older than me. But the real influence came from my mum. We didn't come from any kind of middle class background. Yeah, we working class people in Milton Keynes, where we ended up. What it was in those days there were plenty of opportunities to learn musical instruments, and the school put out a letter saying, "Do you want to learn?" And because growing up in those days, Louis Armstrong was a major cultural hero, I wanted to be a trumpeter.
Okay.
And that's how I started off on trumpet, and then baritone, and then euphonium, and then eventually trombone, and then guitar, DC. But the influence came from my mum.
It was your mum. Okay. It tends to be, funnily enough, unless your parents are either teachers or something of that sort of nature. Do you know what I mean? But you must have had a love for reading, or you must have, because you kind of said that you slid out and you ended up studying economics, as you put it earlier on, and philosophy. And how did that? Why did that come about? Considering that you was on the road to music, why did you not stick with the music?
In my life, I always like to have a plan B. So plan A was definitely music.
Okay.
And as I said, I did enjoy my time in Goldsmiths College when we weren't doing music that went tika. Yeah, when it wasn't that,
Yeah.
I had a good time. And obviously, the Jazz Warriors was very, very important. And what the Jazz Warriors told me was Jeff Gordon, Courtney, Steve Williamson, what those guys taught me, and Ike Leo. We had a bass player called Ike Leo. Get serious about the history, get serious about the culture. So those were the guys that schooled me. So
Right.
Courtney Pine, for example, was into an Ethiopian Egyptologist called Yusuf Ben Yochanan.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Big.
Yeah.
That's a big name that you just now called out there.
Yeah, Gary Crosby, one of the bass players, and Ike Leo, another one of the bass players, was into Chancellor Williams.
Another big name. We're going to get into those guys. We have to.
Yeah, and because the Black British jazz scene, there were Black South Africans also on the jazz scene in Britain, and we used to move with them. They used to move with us, and they schooled us as well. Do you see?
Okay.
And so. What it was I used to like reading as a child, but once I had some content to read now, because of what my colleagues in the Jazz Warriors were teaching me, that's when now I got really, really serious about the thing.
Yeah, because you didn't play, you weren't playing, man. You weren't. It's like you weren't playing when you decided that you were going to go and study this thing.
What happened was I told myself that when I graduate from university, I was doing my economics degree. When I graduate, I would read Chancellor Williams's The Destruction from cover to cover. I promised myself I would do that.
You know how long that book took me to read? You know how long that took me to read, bro?
How did you find it? Okay. Believe me,
Robin.
Believe me, I found it difficult too, really difficult. But because I've got my second subject was economics, my second subject was philosophy. I know how to check an argument. So if someone is presenting information, I know what questions to ask them, what to look for to find out, is there proof? Do you see?
Okay.
And when I realized that with Chancellor Williams's The Destruction, there is proof, that's where my whole attitude to Black history and heritage changed. Because I now realize we really did have a history.
Yeah.
That was a shock, because like most Black people growing up, I really did think that African history and heritage was jungle.
Was Tarzan.
Tarzan. Yeah. And I really didn't know that the history and heritage that the Chancellor Williamses were talking about, the Yusuf Ben Yochanans were talking about, the Sheikh Anta Diops was talking, I didn't know that stuff was absolutely real. And when I found out that it was like, oh my God. And so at one point, I even studied Black Studies with a gentleman called Dr. Femi Biko.
Is he your oh God, everyone's got one. Like I often tell people,
mentor.
Yeah, I often tell people that you're my mentor when it comes to this particular field of study.
Oh no, respect, sir. Seriously,
no,
respect.
No. There's no playing about. Do you know what I mean? When I do my comedy and I throw things in, you know what I mean? And people are like, where you get that from? You know what I mean? Like, mind your business.
Yeah, so
I quote you a lot, Robin. I quote you.
No, respect, man, respect. So with Femi Biko, he brought so much rigor, so that you know that if you're imagine that your tutor is a lawyer, and the lawyer knows exactly what to say, what evidence to base it on. Do you see? With a kind of clinical precision. That's what Femi brought to the game. I'd never seen that done before. And so I wanted, it's like I saw him lecture, and then I said to myself, you know what, I want to do that. And, that was the beginnings of me as getting serious about history.
Okay. But then I found that you didn't just stick with the Black scholars. I mean, tell us what a scholar is, by the way. Tell us what a scholar is. What is a scholar?
Anybody who is serious about systematically gathering information.
That's a scholar.
That's a scholar. If you're serious about, so not just gathering information, but you're systematic. There's a game plan to how you organize the information. Do you see?
Okay. Because like, as I was going to say, like you said, you're gathering this information, but you also cross-reference it with people. Is it Massey?
Massey.
Yeah.
Not just him.
Just him. But
So let me explain.
Yes.
I've since developed a theory that most of Black people's history, the ancient parts of it, the medieval parts of it, the great parts of it, the grand parts of it, most of this stuff was known in European academia right up as at least as early as 1936.
Okay.
You know the book I wrote, When We Ruled?
Yes.
I wrote it in 2006, but I believe that the content could have been written, most of it could have been written in 1936, because European scholars had that information. But what they chose to do with it wasn't to educate. What they chose to do with it was deny.
But didn't they also try to involve themselves, bringing themselves in? Like when they dropped, there were certain dynasties that they dropped and you questioned, yeah? And then you extrapolated it and pulled it apart. Do you know what I'm making reference to?
Yeah, the timeline.
Yes.
Yeah, that's one way, as you say, of people outside African history and heritage trying to make themselves the focus of African history and heritage. And when they do that, they end up denying us our history and heritage. Do you see?
Yeah.
And I found out that they were doing this systematically, but they had the information to come with the truth. They had it in 1936.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So my book, When We Ruled, 95% of it could have been written in 1936.
Most of it could have been written in 1936.
Yeah, they had the information. And that's one of the beauties of cross-referencing, you see. They really could have done it. It could have been done as early as then. Now, there'd have been some facts that would have been wrong, but most of it would be pretty much what I'm saying now, you know.
So then would it be fair to say, to call you a bad boy intellectual then?
I wouldn't go that far. My thing is very much. No. Yeah. My thing is to simplify it, make it easily understandable and digestible, and then put it out to the population. Do you see?
Yeah, but you became challenging though, didn't you? I mean, you're obviously going to be questioned by your white counterparts, if that's fair to say.
It does happen. Most famously happened, I think, in the year either 1999 or 2000. I did debate a scholar called Dr. Stephen Howe, who was one of the Oxford institutions. And he had just written a book called Afrocentrism, how Afrocentricity became excuse to teach myth as history, something like that. No, Afrocentrism, mythical pasts and imagined homes. The idea that we're making up a mythical past, do you see?
Yeah.
And not only did I debate him, but Nekebet Productions filmed it.
Woo! I didn't find that online. I never found that online. Is it online?
Yeah. I don't know who's got it, but I've got part of it because someone did a CD of it for me.
Yeah.
It used to be on video. And so the full debate is there. So if you want to see how to end someone's career.
See, because that's what I'm saying is that you do see yourself as a cultural rebel. Then you got to be. That's how you describe yourself.
In more ways, because what I try to do is the bits of European heritage that I've studied and I still engage with. I still listen to classical music. Do you see?
Okay.
But my thing is, I know about our classical music. You know, music from the courts of medieval Mali and Songhai. Yeah? Okay. Koran music. Then you've got the African Americans who've created their own classical music, which is jazz. Do you see? So what I do is I put a balance between European heritage, the bits of it that I still like, I get with, and our heritage. So that way you don't get the looking down on our stuff and the looking up to everybody else's stuff. Do you see? So that's what I call being a cultural rebel.
Okay. Because I found that there was a lot of balance in the way that you taught us, and you also taught us that if we look properly at some of the I'm going to say this, and some of the white scholars who drop their knowledge about us, that there's a lot of truth in there as well.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's why my theory is why a book like mine could have been written in 1936, because there are enough European scholars that had the information. Oh, let me name some names. There was a French guy, Major Felix Dubois, who traveled across West Africa, and he documented the rise and fall of a massive West African empire called Songhai. And he did that in 1896. And one of the things he did was he visited the remnants of some of the ancient West African cities and found that those cities are still alive. Places like Timbuktu, places like Jenne. And he found that the houses going back to medieval times were still being lived in. And these houses were 2-story. And on the top story were indoor toilets.
Yeah, indoor toilets, we put.
So if people want to test this, the book is called Timbuktu the Mysterious by Major Felix Dubois, 1896. So this is the kind of information that I was able to find. So I can point people to it. Do you see?
So do you spend a lot of time traveling yourself? Or was it all read?
Let me answer that. When I wrote When We Ruled, the first edition, 2006, that was all from reading. Some of it was visiting museums. But since then, I have visited a half a dozen African countries.
Okay.
Do you see? And what the visits have done has meant that I can actually visit some of the sites myself and take my own photographs.
Okay.
Yeah. And also, I was able to find some things that haven't appeared in any of the books. So that way I've been able to do it.
Because sorry, go on.
No, so I've been to places like Kenya, and I visited some of the ancient sites in Kenya. I've since been to Gambia, Senegal, Mali, and where else? And Ghana.
Okay.
And
no, because I believe that you was invited to one of the African states actually, to come and talk there.
All right, let me explain that. What happened was, I am a member of an African Union body. There's a body called CIDO, Citizens and Diaspora Organization. And we working on the 4th edition of Encyclopedia Africana. And I think you might even have a picture of that, where there's a whole bunch of us and we working on that. And the result was, I've been invited to different African countries based on putting together this 4th edition of Encyclopedia Africana project. And the result was, based on it, I met a gentleman called Professor Adamasama Sekou, and he invited me to Mali. And the result was, I was a special guest in Mali for a week.
Is that one of the images that I've got?
You should have an image of me. There's a whole bunch of us just lined up. That's the picture. Can you see the caption says workshop on the publication of the 4th edition? See that?
There you go. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm the person third from the right, right? And we in Dakar, Senegal. And that's what the project was, you see. And as I said, I ended up getting invited to Mali based on it.
Whoa. And did they pay for the fare and everything?
Everything, brethren.
Whoa. So treat you like a king.
The African Union posse looked after me, yeah. And it's really, really good when you go through customs and you've got the African Union, the official paper.
Waiting to greet you.
And then everything just moves smooth. So big up to the African posse, big up to the, because we went Senegal, we went Mali, we went, what's the name of the place? Ghana and Sierra Leone. Everything was smooth. Everything was smooth.
Damn. Damn. Because I mean, I mean, the only way that I've managed to travel around the world, believe it or not, is by being invited. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any better way, really, to see
True
somewhere
say.
being invited and then having people actually take you around. I think one of my guests, I'm trying to remember who it was actually taken in by a community. Who was it? I'm trying to remember who it was, man. They were taken in, and they were made like part of the family. They were actually made part of the family, and they have these rituals that you actually go through. And I was wondering if if anything like that happened to you at all.
Recently, it has. Recently, my last birthday, a Yoruba temple in London has given me an honorary title.
Right.
Which, if you look at the words, it looks like Apatan Agba, but that's not the Yoruba pronunciation. So all the Yorubas in the house are rolling on the floor laughing right now. But there's a pronunciation. So I'm not even going to make a fool of myself.
You know what, Robin? You know what I find really impressive about you?
Yeah.
Is your diction when it comes to pronouncing African words or African names as well.
Yeah.
You put in the and everything. You don't miss. You don't let anything go.
Yeah. But this one I can't pronounce, brethren, so I'm not even gonna try it. Okay. But yes, so that has happened. Yeah.
So where did that? Does that come? I was going to ask you something. Does that actually come from the music? Being able to listen and tune into music to be able to get the dialect and the sound correct? Because even when you was tutoring us and some of us and used to get us lot to read, and if somebody pronounced the name and they left out the or whatever, you used to come in and go, "That's not the pronunciation." That's not the
let me tell you what it is. I'm speaking to people from Africa. That's what that is. Speaking to people from Africa and trying to get how they say it. Do you see?
Okay.
Yeah. That's how I do it.
Okay. Because I did ask myself that question. You know, and have you got a photographic memory?
No, not at all. People think I have. No. What it is because when I'm working with information, I work with it all the time.
Okay.
Do you see?
Okay.
And that's how I end up remembering stuff. It's not because I don't have a photographic memory. My memory is just as bad as everybody else.
No, it is not, Robbie. No, it
is
not.
No,
it is not, Robbie. No. I have to disagree with you. I have to disagree with you. Do you know how many of your interviews I have watched across the internet and everything, and the way in which you pull out books, names, dates, times, you know, it's like a working computer. It's a Filodex of information. Is that because of the way you research and chronologically? Does your mind work the same way?
As I said, it's purely because I work with the information all the time. Seriously. If people were into, sake of argument, car engines, and they work with it in as much detail as I do with history and heritage, they'd be able to do that with a car engine. Do you see? Yeah. What it is most people don't really have the time to put into the amount of history reading that I do. Do you see? Believe me, it's not photographic. It is so not photographic.
So would you say that you're a speed reader then? Or would you say...
No. I've been doing it for a long time. See, check it. I studied with the great Femi Biko in 91. In 92, I was a night porter in a hotel.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I was a night porter in a hotel called the Alexander Hotel, which was in South Kensington. It's not there anymore. And while everyone was asleep, I would be watching night TV and reading and researching.
Okay.
You see, so that by the time after that, I then retrained as a school teacher and then became a school teacher. And then, but in that year, while I was at the Alexander Hotel, I was able to get some serious reading in, get some serious research notes together. And then when you've got a content of information in your head, you can add to it quite easily.
Okay.
You see, why people find studying difficult is they've got nothing in their head to begin with. So it's all new.
Yeah. Sometimes I used to get headache because the funny thing is that when I used to get kicked out of the classroom, I used to go into the toilets and study. I used to sit down there. Do you know what I mean? If I couldn't find nobody to mess around with in the corridors, I mean, a lot of us at school, especially secondary school, we spent most of our time outside of the classroom in the corridor, right? So it was either you found someone else who got kicked out, and started running riot in places where you shouldn't have been, or I would find myself in the toilet, going through whatever I felt I was missing in class at that point in time. But what was you like at school?
A nerd. A nerd. Oh hell yeah! What it was is there's an important lesson I learned as a child, and the important lesson is this. By the way, any children listening to this important piece of lesson they're going to learn right now.
Okay.
It's not what you do that's important. It's what the adults think you're doing.
What they think you're doing.
What they think you're doing. So if people think you're doing the right thing, then you're doing the right thing. It doesn't matter if you're not, as long as they think you are.
Okay.
So, you know, when you see kids with their baseball cap turned backwards and they're bopping down the street, and they're giving everybody a screw face. What do the adults think they're doing? Foolish.
Bad. I'm funny.
Right. Yeah. So you're going to get treated like that. Do you see? You could still be just as bad. You just don't carry on like that. Do you see? Yeah. And I realized that as long as the adults think you're doing the right thing, they treat you like you're doing the right thing. Do you see? So I've learned you don't draw any attention to yourself. You don't carry on in ways that all eyes are on you. You don't have it that the police are looking at you. You don't do it that way. Do you see? And I learned that early. And that's why I was never in a situation where I was in trouble, because I know that if you present yourself in a certain way, people think you're doing the right thing. They'll treat you as if you're doing the right thing. Now, what you're actually doing, that's up to you.
That's a totally different ballgame. I hear you.
It's a different ballgame, just as long as people think you're doing the right thing,
Yeah. Because if there's one thing I know with you is you always present yourself a certain way.
Yeah.
So there's no distraction. There's no, this is who I is, this is who I am. Do you know what I mean? There's no distraction at all. I am, of course, the Black history man. Do you get what I mean?
True say.
And that is something that I noticed that you carry through and through. Not in everything that I've seen you actually in. You're always immaculately dressed.
Thank you very much.
Always with a tie. Yeah. Is there a reason why you haven't adopted the Afrocentric look? The whole.
Do you know why? The problem is there's a group of people I mockingly call the Bearded Revolutionaries.
Okay.
And the problem with that is them man's there. You get the association with. You go to one of their events, it's going to start late. Yeah? You go to one of their events, and the event is going to begin like this. While we are low in number, what has that just told you? They didn't do the advertising in time. Do you see?
Yeah, but I don't know, because when it comes to them events, I mean, I find that some of them are not as well attended as I would have thought they would have been.
No, but what I'm saying is
the promotion and advertising alone.
No, but what I'm saying is it sets a kind of image of whatlessness, And I've seen the way mans them like Tony Warner does it. Yep. People like Avril Nanton do it. People like Andrew Mohammed, and it's a very different look.
Yes.
Do you see?
Yes.
And you got to get it like that. You got to make the thing professional. You've got to make sure that people that come out to see you, they get content. You don't waste their time. You're not making excuses for why they get there and the person setting up the equipment hasn't arrived yet. I mean, I've been to events where you got the Bearded Revolutionary Man them, and I get to the event and I'm supposed to be speaking at the event, and the chairs haven't been set out. Or you get to the building and the person with the keys hasn't turned up to the building, so everyone's queuing outside.
Yeah.
And the person that's actually organizing it isn't even there.
Yeah.
And so, but really it's about just presenting that kind of I'm not here to waste your time kind of image.
Okay. So when you decided that you were going to study, do Black studies, and also, like you said, you were a teacher.
Yeah.
When did you decide to document it? Was that the intention all along, or was it just interest and then you just got into it, or did you kind of, once you started talking about Ben, how you pronounce him, Liam?
Ben Jockenen.
Mr. Diop, and all of those guys. Did you feel that there was a gap here? Did you feel there was a gap here?
Yeah. Let me explain how that happened. I began by teaching Dr. Femi Biko's courses.
Right.
And Dr. Biko used to have a huge reading list. Now, because I'm, I've got an academic background, buying lots of books and reading them, that's my thing. I can do that. But adult audiences can't do that. They just want one book. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I was able to cut Dr. Biko's reading list on the history. I was able to cut it down to 5 books.
Okay.
But 5 books is still a lot of books. So then I realized, listen, can I write something that synthesizes the best in one place? And I began doing that in 1999 when I wrote a book called Classical Splendour, Roots of Black History.
Is that your first? Was that your first book?
That's my first book. That's my first book. Yeah. And then what happened was I put it out there, but nobody took it seriously. Nobody. And so what I then did was I took that same book and fattened it up between 1999 and 2006. And the fat version is When We Ruled.
Whoa, okay.
Do you see? And then because it was such a fat book, I think the first edition was 700 and something pages. People had to take it seriously.
That's another book that I'm not even halfway through that one, Robin. And
true.
My wife, I'm now 58 years of age, right? My wife bought it for my 45th birthday, I think it was. And then it was on my discussion with you, talking to you, and then you directed me to the study guide. Because that is not an easy read.
Agreed.
But it's not an easy read, bro.
What I would say is this, hate on all those people that didn't like my first book, Classical Splendour, which is the slimmed down version of that, because they didn't take it seriously. It's like, listen, this is a good read. So the reason why I fattened it up was so that people would take it seriously.
Well, the images in there are quite vivid. They're very strong. They're very powerful. They're very powerful images. I mean, learning things that we were smelting from way back when, the kind of gold that we had, the civilization, which was, I think, is the most important part. Chancellor Williams's book, the explanation of, I think you broke it down in one of our lessons in terms of how we're supposed to actually teach each other as a village, the way the village works. I don't know if you could explain that to people, where it was like certain age groups teach certain age groups. Big people don't mix in other youth them business, and the youth them don't mix in other, but you have to go through can you explain that better than me?
Chancellor Williams calls it age sets or age grades. And what the age sets and the age grades are, why they're useful, why they're important, is, for example, boys around the age of 12 will all be initiated together. Do you see?
Yeah.
Girls around the same age would be initiated together. And one of the ways of teaching young people would be to take the teenagers out of the society, literally take them out, and they'd go and live in the bush somewhere. And they'd have to build an encampment in the bush and stay there for several months, where the boys are taught man things and the girls are taught woman things. And then the idea would be, first of all, it gets, you know, a lot of young people, especially of that age group, they're at their most terrible period.
Yeah.
The idea is to make sure.
I've been in my daughter's room. It's like a petri dish, bro. I've been in there. It's crazy, but I find it's a funny age for them. It's an age of independence, wanting to be your own person, and therefore do what you want to do. But this kind of way of going about things brings in a certain discipline.
Absolutely. And then the idea then is the children are out of the cities, out of the towns. Do you see?
Yeah.
And they're being initiated. And this is the kind of knowledge that will turn, if you like, boys into men and then girls into women. And then they would have to, having been there for several months, they don't have to set fire to the camp and then walk back. And then there's a ritual where you're not allowed to look back, because if you're looking back, that's you looking back to your boyhood.
Okay.
You see? And so from here on in, you have to start acting like an adult. And
I think the closest we got to that was with Roots and Hold Out Your Photos, when they snipped them. That's when they circumcised them. That's
right. And circumcision would be a part of the whole thing. Do you see?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what happened was, why that information became useful is there's an organization in South London called Origin, and they do an initiation program for boys. Mm-hmm. And then they've tried to expand it into girls and all that kind of thing. But you know, the whole rites of passage.
Yes.
And at one point they invited me to do research into how was it done in early Africa. And then Chancellor Williams's book became the central structure.
Yes.
And then what I then did was to go from African society, one after the other, where they had something like this in place. So you've got the Gikuyu in Kenya, how do they do it? The Akamba, how do they do it? The Zulus, how do they do it? The Shona, how do they do it? The West African, there was something called the Poro Society, how did they do it? Congo, how did they do it? Do you see? And then the idea was to present that kind of information to make it useful to modern practitioners of boys' initiation. So how a modern version could be done today. And then the Origin people in South London are doing that.
Right. Because even when I watch some of Andrew's programs, I see that kind of programming taking place.
That's right.
You know, and it's nice to know that where that is actually coming from, and the reason, the reasons behind it. You know, because it is fair to say that we came here in 1958, approximately, as a set of Caribbean people, and a lot of our rituals, even though some of them were lost in the Caribbean as well, are very much so diluted. Now, it might sound like I'm doing a big jump here, but I'm not really, because a lot of us have adopted the we're spiritual people, but we do fall into categories of religion. We have the Christians and we have the Muslims. And I like the way in which you embrace both.
Indeed.
Because it has been known that by adopting the Muslim side, it's like we've just dropped the African side. But would you say we have, or would you say that we've embraced everything?
How I do it is a bit different to how everybody else does it. Do you see? Yeah. A lot of people want to, my God's bigger than your God, my God's better than your God, my religion's better than your God, and my religion's the truth, yours is false. Do you see? I try not to do that, because my attitude is, if you look at the history of Christianity, Islam, for that matter, Judaism, for that matter, Buddhism, we are in the stories of all of them. We really are. So much so that I'm not going to go as far as to say we started them, but when those religions started, we were in the thing. For real. Yeah. And so what it means then is who owns these religions? We have part ownership of all of them. And then, of course, before these religions came along, there were traditional African religions, the most powerful one being the ancient Egyptian one. Okay. Another powerful one is the Yoruba one. Another powerful one is the Dogon religion.
Yep.
And if you look at these religions are ancestral to the religions that come later. And you can see how some African religious ideas evolved into Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, and so on. So for me, once I've got that information, I now can't diss my Muslim brother. I can't diss my Rasta brother. Do you see? Yeah. And so my view is I don't take the attitude, my religion's right, yours is wrong. I don't take that attitude. I respect the fact that we are in the stories of all the religions because we had a hand in all of them. And therefore we part own. I don't say we fully own, but we part own all of them. And we need to claim that.
Okay. Because I mean, like we said, like I was saying, it does feel at times like we don't claim it, we just leave it, and we just adopt this new thing, so to speak. It's like it's almost like it's a new fad, so to speak.
There's a lot of that, yeah, and a lot of that would stop if we knew the real history and the evolution of those religions, and that's one of the reasons why religion is an important subject within Black studies, because this is the kind of information we teach.
Okay, and you talk about teaching now. When you were teaching in schools, what was you teaching?
I've taught every subject, but okay, I was trained to teach three subjects: economics, business studies, and ICT.
Right.
And then, but what happens when you're a school teacher? In reality, you'll be asked to teach everything. Okay. So I have taught officially on my timetable PE, English. What else? Mathematics, sociology, politics, music. Yeah. And when I was a supply teacher, there was even one day where I was sent to a school in Tottenham to teach Turkish.
Oh, Turkish?
Quite serious.
Okay.
I know nothing about Turkish, but what happened was it was Eid and all the Islamic teachers were on holiday. And the children that were Turkish that didn't celebrate Eid went into school and someone had to teach them. Okay. So I just babysat. So it was like, turn to the next page of the book. So I learned one
Turkish. I would have eaten you for breakfast, mate. If that was in that class.
Yeah, real talk.
I used to love when the supply teachers used to come in. You could see them all befuddled and not sure what we're supposed to do. And when they tell us to open up the page and turn to it, I go, we done read that already, you know, rude boy. You know what I mean? Do you know what you're doing? Do you know? That was terrible.
Let me tell you. I learned how to handle that stuff. Seriously.
I was terrible, man. I was terrible.
No, this is how you handle that. I learned early that provided that children are sat down, the amount of noise that they make is lower. Do you see?
See.
So what happens is if people want to be loud, they usually get up out of their chair. And then that way they can be freely expressive. So if you want to sit down and stay sat down, the noise level automatically drops.
See.
And my thing, so trust me, I learned some proper class management in situations like that.
Some teachers, they're not bad. But I noticed that you mentioned that you did PE. I mean, there's another side of you that you haven't really spoken too much about, which is the athletics.
But in truth, it's not really a side to me. What it is every black kid gets pushed into athletics.
But I'm not interested in every black kid. I'm interested in you.
All right, so here's the thing. There was talk of me becoming a sprinter, 100 meters, 200 meters. Also, one time one of the PE teachers wanted to recruit me for the rugby team because I was quite a good rugby tackler. But Real talk. When I realized that I could get hit in the mouth,
Yeah, with the studs and the booty and all everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
as a brass player, then I had to say no. Hell no.
Okay.
So yeah, so the athletics didn't go anywhere, but I was good, but no better than any other black kid, to be honest.
No, man. But the point, no, there was some black kids who just didn't have it, and there were others who did. You
True
know
say.
what I mean?
True say.
Because I mean, even in sport, there's a sense of discipline that
True say.
that has to be there, and also that competitive nature. I mean, would you say that you're a competitive individual?
Not really, no, not really. But what it is I like to put in a good showing. I don't have to win, just so long as I don't lose. Do you see?
Okay. Yeah.
I don't have to be the best, just so long as I'm not the worst. And that's pretty much the way that I've always done things, you know?
Okay. Because you also said that you taught business. Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
And I know that you have you do have your views on those who teach and those who do, and also because there were a number of books that you pointed me and the class to.
Let me answer that. Very simply, I am a trained business studies teacher, but I do believe that academic business studies is bull, utter bull. And you can prove it very, very easily. If you go into any school, you'll notice that the music teachers really are musicians. You go into any school, the art teachers really are graphic artists, designers, and fine artists, for real. You go into any school, the drama teachers really can act. You go into any school, the craft design and technology teachers really are metal workers, woodworkers, for real. And then you go into the school and the business studies teachers are an absolute shambles, me included. Mm-hmm. None of us have got any businesses. None of us have got any income streams. And it's only years later when I came across an African-American scholar called George Sabiro, who wrote a book called Black Folks Guide to Making Big Money in America. That's when I took entrepreneurship seriously. And since then, that book did get me off the plantation.
Okay.
And then I started studying other people, the Japanese American guru, Robert T. Kiyosaki, the Polish American guru, T. Harv Eker. And one of the things I do now is I teach wealth education because I think it's a very, very, very important for adults to become.
Is that something that you do 3-4 times a year? Is it something that, I mean, and tell us where you do this as well.
I make wealth education a part of Black Studies. So I believe that a properly educated Black adult has to be about business and has to know how to manage their money, how to build income streams, how to build assets so that they can start generating passive income, and ultimately how to make themselves financially free. So I make that a part of my Black Studies courses. And then what's happened over the last few years is I've worked out ways of combining history and heritage with wealth education and combine the two so it becomes one thing. I call that the history and wealth education. History and wealth mastery. And so the idea now is when I teach history, people can't say, what's the point? Because the point now is you're going to use this information to become entrepreneurial.
Okay. Because I mean, that is, I think since especially through the pandemic, it has become very apparent to a lot of people.
Yeah. And if you do it the right way, I mean, a lot of people suffered during the pandemic, the thing. Yeah, a lot of people suffered. But if you have your structures in place, you can actually do quite well, I'm not going to say that I did brilliantly, but I didn't suffer, And I know for a fact.
But then Robin, you're not going to suffer if you've got something like 15 books out there, are you?
Well, those are assets, you see. That's the point. Those are assets. And the whole point is once I studied wealth education, not the scammy stuff they call business studies, the real stuff, beginning with George Sabira, and then I said the authors Robert T. Kiyosaki, T. Harv Eker, M.J. DeMarco, Jill Fielding, those kind of people, you can then learn how to build your own assets so that if stuff does go down, you don't go down with it.
Right. I mean, it's not our fault that we think the way that we do. I mean, a lot of us.
Absolutely,
I came
absolutely.
from the British educational system where I'm meant to have a small house with a picket fence, 2.5 children, and a car outside the front door, and I'm supposed to get a gold watch at the end of that. But during my lifetime, we've seen job contracts break down to zero contracts. You know, and that's all happened in our lifetime, which is why I do believe, as you said, the business side of things is so important. It's something that I try to do. It's something that I push on my children to have that state of mind. And I can put my hand up and say that I'm very proud of my two oldest daughters. The youngest one is still studying at the moment, but you know, my second one is showing entrepreneurial spirit that's gone through. In fact, basically, I'm going to her for a loan.
No, respect to that, man. Respect to that. No, on a level, because it's the only way it can be done. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to us and jobs, we're the last in the queue, as you know.
Yeah.
When it comes to who's going to get fired, who's going to get laid off, all of a sudden we're the first in the queue.
It depends, though, unless you're talking about the vaccine.
Well, indeed. and you know, things can be the opposite way around if they want it to be. So my thing is ultimately, no. So that's the reason why I say, you know, you got to have your own stuff. You got to have your own stuff.
So if people wanted to get hold of you, or they wanted to get involved in your endeavors, yeah, because you know you're for the adults, you're all about teaching. I mean, where do they go? What do they need to do?
Okay, I'm on Facebook. There's one where you've got the Facebook, this very handsome face right now. You get me? All the women are thinking, hell no. All right, so there's that. Then there's another Facebook page where my avatar is the book When We Ruled. Right. So check me out on Facebook, friend me on Facebook, and I'll keep you in the loop. All right, what I do, the closest I've got to a day job, I do work for an education charity called Croydon Supplementary Education Project. And we do adult education courses, and we run a Saturday school. So if you're in Croydon, if you're in South London, if you're accessible to East or West Croydon train station, you and your children, basically we take children between 5 and 16, year 1 all the way up to year 11.
Okay.
And so, you know, check us out. We doing our thing. So yeah, people want to get hold of me, definitely Facebook.
And what if they want to tutor their children? Because I believe you have something for them too.
There's 2 books that I've written for 11 to 14-year-olds. Yeah. It can work with adults. It can work with slightly younger children. There's a book that I wrote called Black British History. And there's another book that I wrote called 30 Black History Icons. The books weren't just written by me. They were written by 4 people. The 4 people are Vanika Marshall, Paula Perry, Anthony Vaughan, and me. But if you look under my name, it's easier to find it on Amazon. And those books they're set out like classroom books. So in other words, set up so that you can really do a classroom lesson. And each class lasts 1 hour. So 1 hour of teaching, learning material. And because there's 30 odd chapters in those books, there's 30 odd hours worth of teaching and learning material in each book. If your children are younger than that, you might want to check out the books by a scholar called Kandasi Chimbiri. Kandasi Chimbiri is a children's author. She's a colleague of mine, and she has written some monster books on Black history aimed at children specifically, younger children. Her most recent book is The Story of Afro Hair.
Okay, that's big at the moment. That's massive.
Big things.
I honestly didn't expect there to be such an explosion when it came to hair.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like you. Do you know what I mean? Most of mine now is growing at the back. My forehead is now kissing my neck back. That's how. Yeah. That's what's happening to my hair, basically. Right?
Yeah, true.
I didn't understand. realize just exactly how big a thing hair is. I mean, I remember the Black Hair and Beauty show. I mean, I used to do some stand-up shows. I used to do some presenting and stuff like that down there.
Yeah,
but I didn't realize just how ingrained it is in the community as such. You know?
Yeah, I mean, brilliant book. All the business, the businesses, Dyke & Dryden,
Right.
American businesses, the Poro Company, the Madam C.J. Walker,
Yeah.
all that stuff is all in there.
Okay. Now, Gloria Miller, she popped up earlier on YouTube. And I didn't want to really let this go because she says that I admire Margaret Sanger enormously. Her courage, her tenacity, her vision. I'm really in awe of her. There are a lot of lessons we can learn from her life. Are you aware of who she's referring to?
Isn't that the woman that had something to do with Planned Parenting and wanted to use Planned Parenting to help cut the Black American population? Is that the woman?
I'm not sure.
That is who I think Margaret Sanger is.
Okay. Is that white woman?
Yeah.
Well, that's I'm a bit her vision.
That's what her vision was. Her vision was Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood is not a bad thing, but in particular, she wanted to target Black people to cut African American numbers. Do you see?
Whoa.
I mean, I may have my facts wrong, but I'm about 90% sure that that's who that is.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up.
Is that what Hillary Clinton is alleged to have said? Well, in that case, that's not good.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good.
But what I was going to do is I was going to give people 5 minutes if they've got any questions for you. To feel free to throw them in. I should have actually asked them to do so as we were going along, because quite a few people have said a few things. But I mean, I was more just allowing the conversation to flow as it was going. But if there is anybody who would like to ask Robin anything with regards to Black history, Black study, please do feel free to ask. Here's a question that's come in. Do you think Josh Strobel is the father of Kayan? Don't know who that is.
Honest opinion, I have no idea who Josh Strobel is. I don't know who Kaya is. So I can't come with anything intelligent on that, I'm afraid.
Okay, no, that's fair enough, man. I mean, people can only ask, and that's all we can really ask. You get me? So the one thing that I should have mentioned, which was a lot sooner, there were two questions that I wanted to ask you actually. Was Mansa Musa, right? You taught me was the richest Black man ever.
No, he wasn't. He was the richest man ever. Not richest Black man, richest man ever. Do you see?
Yeah. Would you say that he was responsible for the slave trade?
Some scholars
because of the way that he went flossing. Because of the way he went flossing.
That is exactly what Professor Yusuf Ben Yochanan used to say. That's exactly what my tutor Femi Biko used to say. Yeah. Man was flossing, and that flossing created negative attention where people have got their eye on you who shouldn't have had their eye on you. Do you see? People seeing West Africa as gold, and then rummaging West Africa where that didn't need to happen. So certainly some scholars have said that. My own view is I sit on the fence.
Oh, but you sit on the fence on a lot of things though, Robbie.
Oh, you've done that. No, because you see, what it does is it ends up with us hating our history.
Okay.
So Mansa Musa now becomes a negative figure when in reality he's the richest human being in history. Do you see? Now, he didn't know that his flossing was going to result in the whole world putting their eyes on West Africa and looking at West Africa through envy and greed. He didn't know that was going to happen. Do you see?
Yeah. No, it's true. But I mean, Because he just walked around just giving out gold like he was just handing out confetti.
You're right, and obviously that type of showmanship, you do deserve a butt whooping when you do stuff like that, because it really did. Basically, one of the things you learn in wealth management is you keep your sources of wealth quiet.
Okay.
So once you've got assets that are pulling down money, you keep it quiet, and the most important thing you don't do is floss.
He was flossing bad, man.
True say.
He was worse than Mr. What's it? The boxer, Moneyweather.
Indeed, yeah, indeed.
He's like a man, someone to that the way that boy they carry on,
Yeah, flossing. Mm-hmm.
Definitely. A question here: what do Sub-Saharan Africans have to do with Egypt?
Okay, the people who we today call Sub-Saharan Africans live south of the Sahara because north of the Sahara has been conquered, colonized, and enslaved by other groups of people. So it's a bit like when people go to America and they say, I went to America and I met some Americans. No, you didn't. You met Europeans in America, or you met Africans in America. You didn't meet any Americans. Same thing. People will go to North Africa and they'll say, I went to North Africa and I met some Africans. No, you didn't. You met Arabs in Africa, or you met Turks in Africa. Do you see?
Yeah.
All right. Now, the Arabs conquered North Africa between 639 and 708 AD. Okay. And when they conquered North Africa, essentially they replaced the population that was already there. And the population that was already there were people that looked just like Sub-Saharan Africans. The difference is they lived north of the Sahara.
I got you.
You've got people moving in as conquerors, and as people moved in as conquerors, the indigenous people moved south. And that's why Black people today live south of the Sahara. All right, now, how can we prove that the ancient Egyptians look just like Sub-Saharan Africans? Well, there are eyewitness descriptions that tell us the ancient Egyptians had black skin complexions. Eyewitness descriptions that tell us that the ancient Egyptians had snub noses and thick lips. Mm-hmm. There are descriptions that tell us that the ancient Egyptians had black, dry, woolly, and brittle hair. Mm-hmm. So in other words, the ancient Egyptians had 4C hair. And scholars that have measured ancient Egyptian mummies, scholars that have taken melanin samples from ancient Egyptian mummies, show that the mummies have got a tropically adapted body shape, which is typical of Sub-Saharan Africans. And the ancient Egyptians had melanin levels between the epidermis and the dermis that is comparable with modern African complexions.
Whoa.
So once we go back then, you had a Persian invasion of Egypt in 525 BC, a Greek invasion of Egypt in 332 BC, a Roman invasion of Egypt in 30 BC, and then an Arab invasion of Egypt in 639 AD. Before these invaders, the people in North Africa were just the same as the people that now live south of the Sahara.
Okay, because Paul has come back and said, aren't the ancient Egyptians indigenous to the area according to DNA?
Same thing. Which group of people are you calling ancient Egyptians? Do you see? We need to be clear, because once you've got a mixed population, so Egypt today is partly black even now. It's not fully black, it's partly. And depending on what date you take the DNA and which population you take it from, you can get very, very different results. So you've got some modern Egyptians that clearly are Africans, including the late President Anwar el-Sadat. You've got some modern Egyptian presidents like Hosni Mubarak, who's clearly Turkish. You've got others that are clearly white. And depending on whose DNA you want to compare it against, you can get a different result. Okay. My thing is, if we are looking strictly at the bones, strictly at the skin, clearly we are dealing with populations that are identical to Sub-Saharan Africans.
Of course. Yeah, that would make sense. That would actually make sense. Now, for my final question, today's Egyptians have been found to be 30,000. This is Paul still coming back. I think Paul wants to make a point here. Today's Egyptians have been found to be 30,000 years indigenous.
Let me answer that one.
Sure.
Impossible. Since we know that the Arabs set foot in Egypt in December 639 AD, notice I'm being absolutely precise, December 639 AD. If you were to go back to November 639 AD, there wasn't one Arab in Egypt, not even one. Secondly, the two genes that are responsible for light skin color, one of those genes was originated in the world 9,000 years ago, and another gene originated in the world 8,000 years ago. One depigments its bearer by 60%, and the other one depigments its bearer by 32.5%. Do you see?
Okay.
And in order to be white-skinned, you have to have both of those genes. One originated 9,000 years ago, one originated 8,000 years ago. So any population that goes back, say, 10,000 years or before could not have had those two depigmentation genes. Does that make sense? Now, what does that mean? It means everybody 10,000 years ago and plus was black-skinned, everybody. And it doesn't matter which country they were in either. So when Cheddar Man was discovered in Britain 10,000 years ago, he was found to be black-skinned. Do you see?
But he had blue eyes, though. He had blue eyes.
He was still black-skinned.
True.
Yeah. Do you see? So what happens is every population. So even if you want to trace people in Egypt 30,000 years, those people are not the near white Egyptians that we see today. Do you see?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because once you go back more than 10,000 years, everybody was black.
Well, okay. I have been listening to various scholars who have said that, you know, the birth of humankind was Kenya, around that area.
True say.
So I think it would be difficult to have a white pigmented skin for the environment that they would have found themselves in.
True say.
The sun would have just said, not today. And that's not me saying because I'm a scholar. I'm just coming from a pure common sense point of view in that respect. But my last and final thing is that you were actually featured in Hidden Colors.
True say.
Yeah. So how did that come about?
Let me explain that. What happened was there was an event that took place in London, and the person that wrote Hidden Colors, Tariq Nasheed Elite, was speaking at the event. And what happened was my friend Devon Morgan wanted to speak to him. And then what happened was a meeting was arranged, and then somebody cancelled it. And then we tried to meet him again. A meeting was arranged and somebody cancelled it. So in the end, Tariq Nasheed spoke at the event. And in the interval, me and Devon cornered him. And I gave him a copy of my book.
Which one?
When We Ruled.
Okay.
And I just said, Mr. Nasheed, take this, take it as reading material. And then what happened, Tariq's people contacted me to say, the book is pure fire, to use Tariq's phrase. Would I be interested in going to, I think it's Los Angeles he's in, something like that. And yeah, they flew me out there.
Whoa, big respect, man, because that was massive.
Yeah, true say. I
mean, that kind of like opened up, that literally opened up the door for everybody to kind of see, because they sold it like it was hip hop. Which drew a lot of attention to it.
Wasn't that a powerful marketing thing? Very, very successful marketing program. Yeah.
I was extremely impressed with it. I mean, I went out just like Devon and most probably a lot of people, and went straight and got hold of the DVD straight away. No messing about. I think he came to was it Shaw, the Shaw Theatre?
That's right. And that was where me and Devon cornered him. It was
okay.
So it really wasn't me introducing myself. It's just, here, have this. And,
From the moment that he saw it, he knew he had gold in his hand.
True say.
Robin, I think I've taken up more than your time. I don't normally go over an hour. Yeah.
Mhm,
The
mhm.
only time I go over an hour is when the person is more interesting than me.
Yeah, yeah.
And my little quips and gags have to be pushed to one side. Oh God. I'm going to put this up. I don't know how you want to respond to this, but this is Paul Martin. He said, hidden colors, revisionist, black history, considered a joke.
Okay. All right. All right. What I like to do is I like to quote right-wing sources. Do you see? All right. This is what the Daily Mail says. As everybody knows, the Daily Mail is a right-wing British newspaper. And there's an article that it wrote, they put out, called 6th of April 2015. And the article is called How White Skin Evolved in Europeans. Pale complexions only spread in the region 8,000 years ago, study claims. All right.
Okay.
Daily Mail.
Have you got that coming up on your computer?
6th of April 2015.
Have you got it coming up on your computer? Yeah. Because there's a if you see down the bottom where it says share,
yeah,
right? If you click on that, right, I believe you should be able to share it with us. If it doesn't work, I apologize for not us unable to link up on Sunday.
Okay, let me try again. Cancel, share.
There's a share button on there. When you click on that share button, it says either share screen. Yeah.
Okay, so if I click on that and it says share screen, right, let's go window. All right, let me see what I can do here. Hang on. Share. Right, can people see this?
I put it. There you go.
Right, can people see that?
Yeah, they can see it.
Right, can people see where it says mail online?
Yeah, if you click on it and open it.
All right, let's go slideshow from the current slide. Can people see that?
No, that hasn't come up, unfortunately. Because I can see that the page is open.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when you clicked on it, it didn't open up. Or double click it again and see what happens.
All right, can that be seen as it is right now?
Yeah.
All right, so people can see that, right? Let me see if I can enlarge it a little bit. All right, auto hide ribbon. Can people see that?
No. All we're seeing is that you've got there's a number of things that you've got open.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So but we can't actually see the slide that you were showing us. So it's like when you go on the share button and then you go to share the screen, it's trying to get that particular slide to show itself. Or maybe we should just allow you to read it because we know that you are definitely
No, let's see if we can actually get it to be seen. Let's see if we can get it to be seen. Let's go again. Share.
Mm-hmm.
Share screen.
Well, I'm waiting for it to pop up. It hasn't popped up.
Window. Can that be seen? No?
No.
Right, one thing, can you see what's happening is I can see. Okay, let me see, try something else.
Yeah, it's not coming through the way it came through the last time, a moment ago, where we could see.
All right, let me try it one more time, and if it fails, it fails.
Okay. My apologies for not being able to link up with you on the Sunday so that we could have had this.
All right. If it can't be seen, then I'm going to have to read it to you.
Okay, cool.
It says how white skin evolved in Europeans. Pale complexions only spread in the region 8,000 years ago, study claims. The original migrants to Europe from Africa arrived 40,000 years ago. Up until 8,000 years ago, early hunter-gatherers largely had darker skin. When Near Eastern farmers arrived, they carried with them light-skin genes. Genomes of 83 people found 5 genes linked with diet and skin changes. Published 6th of April 2015, updated 7th of April 2015. And it says by Eli Zofag Farad from dailymail.com.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's the Daily Mail with this information.
So it's not coming from you, that's coming from a right-wing...
It's coming from a newspaper, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I know Paul has got he's got his opinion on things, and which is fair enough, because the world is made up of a lot of different people with a lot of different views.
Yeah.
But I mean, facts are facts, and that's all I'm prepared to go. That's all one can go by. That's how I look at it, and especially if you've done the study as well.
True.
So thanks for that, Paul. Again, he's saying dark skin doesn't mean negroid.
Now, what's happening is man's just moving goalposts. And what I say is, bro, deal with it. Yeah. And notice I didn't say dark skin. I said black skin. I said deal with it. If the 2 genes concerned, and let me tell you what they are, SLC24A5 and SLC45A2. These 2 genes are the ones responsible for depigmentation. SLC24A5 evolved 9,000 years ago, which depigments its bearer by 32.5%. And then SLC45A2 came about 8,000 years ago and depigments its bearer by 60%. In order to be white-skinned, you have to have both. And the earliest possible date is 8,000 years ago. And therefore, before 10,000 years ago, everybody was black.
And so what I would suggest to you then, Paul, is what you do is that you hold a seminar, where you can prove differently. Because obviously, like we said, once again, you're moving the goalposts. You're talking about Indians and Pakistanis have dark skin, even black skin.
And even that can be dealt with, bro. As I said, even that can be dealt with.
I understand that. West Africans have a particular phenotype, so I can see that he's trying to share the knowledge that he's got, which is great. But I'm also taking it that it's he's looking for a platform in which to voice these views, and I think that there is a place for it. But he's got to work and bring himself to the point where he can do that for himself. Here's a question. What do you feel about black people bleaching their skin to my red skin? That's coming from Shugs.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, here's the point. No disrespect to red skin, or no disrespect to anything that isn't jet black skin. But obviously, one would want to be in a position where you like your own beauty standard. Do you see? And you want to represent your beauty standard. Bleaching is obviously not good. And the damage that bleaching does to skin is, you do it for long enough, it can be quite horrific to the damage that it causes. And since black skin is, there's certain sun resistance that comes with it. And if you bleach the skin and the damage occurs, you put yourself at risk of skin cancer.
That's true.
So in other words, chasing what you think of as beautiful is one thing, but don't do it to damage yourself and put yourself at risks.
I just want to make a quick point here, and that is the whole point of tonight's show was to present to everybody yourself, who's prepared to find out about African culture and all the beauty and all the heritage that it has within it. Is I'm not really about the skin color thing. It's more about the culture that's behind the skin color and what could be attributed to it, as well as what has been taken away from it, and the contributions that it has made to today's society, and why today's society is the way that it is. We've never ever had anybody champion what it is to be Black British, and for that I thank you, Robin, because I mean, who else is doing it? How many of you out there are there? How many other scholars like yourself are out there that you could make us aware of?
Obviously, we mentioned some of them are Andrew Mohammed, Tony Warner. You've got Avril Nanton has just written a book called Black London with her colleague, I think her name is Joey Burton. So there's the new book that's come out on hair by Kandasi Chimbiri. You've got the company Black History Studies are doing some good work. You've also got various people up and down the country doing Black History tours.
Avril, yeah, that's right, that's true.
Yeah, so you know, there's even someone doing Black History tours in Liverpool. Someone's doing it in.
Oh, he's an old man. That's an old brother, man.
Yeah.
Is it Clinton? His name's not Clinton. I've forgotten his name. Mr. Finch.
Yeah, Eric. Yeah.
Eric Finch. Yes, man. Because when I went up there, he took me round.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got run. I remember we got run from the church.
Yeah. Eric Lynch.
Yeah, Eric, we got run from the church, man, because he was telling us he was explaining how the slave ships had the Christian flag and stuff like that was on it and all that kind of stuff. And then the pastor came running out and going, "Oh, you again." He goes, "Yes, I'm back." You know what I mean? And I don't know if he's still alive, actually.
True.
Yeah. And then I went to the Liverpool Museum up there.
And it's a brilliant museum. It's a brilliant museum.
It is. It was a scary museum as well. Do you know what I mean? You know what I mean? They've got keychains that are literally chains, which I found quite funny. You know, but the history is out there. It is out there, and it's people like yourself who are bringing it to the light. So. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring this interview to a close. I'd like to thank Mr. Robin Walker for spending his time with us, because I know that time is precious. Do you know what I mean? And you didn't actually ask me for a fee. Thank you very much, sir. Much appreciated. You know what I mean? Especially in these pandemic times. I wish I could have given you a fee, because you deserve it for the time that you've taken to accumulate the knowledge that you have and then to share it. Do you know what I mean? As opposed to just giving it away. So I thank you for that. And I hope that we've learned something more about you, other than the lecturer that I always confront or I always see, and then I have to go and take a seat so as that I keep my voice down and you control the room. Because you've got to be a well-behaved student when I sit down in your thing. I don't.
In it, you know where you are. No, well done, sir. Well done.
You know what I mean? I don't mess about. Whereas normally I do, and my mouth is quite loud, right? But when it comes to like yourself and Andrew and all them, man, I just have to sit down and hold my corner, man, and hold my peace, because I need to know what you know, and then I can then pass that on to my children so that they know. You know. Okay, there was a quick question. I can't let this one go, and that is, we need it in audio. We need some of this stuff you've got in audio, as Black children don't like to read some of them.
I'd like to say some of them, because there's lots that do. In audio, I mean, some of my stuff is online, and if you don't want to look at this handsome face, then you can just run the audio. So there's some of my stuff's online, some of other people's stuff is also online.
Okay, so there's quite a bit that you can get on audio as well. All right, sure. So would you like to say good night, Robin? And I'll let you go, my friend.
Thank you very, very much. Right, have a good one. And yeah, hope your series of interviews go well. Well done.
So do I. Thank you very much, Robin.
Okay, thank you. Have a good one.
Cheers, bro. Well, that was Mr. Robin Walker, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you found him just as interesting as I did. As I've pointed out before, he's somebody that I do look up to. He's somebody that I do appreciate, because when I was going through school, there wasn't that much history that I could be proud of. I mean, I couldn't sing the national anthem. You know, I mean, Britain never, never, never shall be. I mean, I was like, how can you say Britain could never be slaves? And yet, for you showing me that I came out of this slave ship, and you weren't showing me anything any further than that. Whereas Robin actually goes way back. He goes way, way, way back. So thank you very much for joining me, guys. I'm going to give him a round of applause, which I should have done before he left. Also, thank you very much for all those people who asked the questions. Thanks for your contribution. That goes out to Paul, that goes out to Shugs, that goes out to everybody. And hopefully you will join me next week, where I will be talking to Eartha Pond. The girl is dynamic. So take it easy and good night. Thank you for watching Keep It Real with myself, Rudi Lickwood, and my guest this week, Mr. Robin Walker. To me next week when I'll be talking to Eartha Pond. She's a Londoner who is allergic to the word can't. So, you know, when a woman says she just can't stand the word can't, this is one of those women. And she's demonstrated this consistently in education, sports and politics. Having signed for Arsenal ladies at the age of 12 in her, she's gone on to achieve accolades such as winning the FA Cup, the Premier League, the League Cup and the national championships abroad as a professional in the US of A. And alongside Earth's sporting success, she's excelled into senior leadership positions within educations in schools across London. So tune in to me next week when we will be talking to a very powerful woman. And make sure you like and subscribe and tell your friends. And I will see you guys next week.